Hey guys, tonight we step barefoot into a forest that doesn't just grow, it listens. The air feels thick, like it's been holding on to secrets longer than you've been alive, and every branch leans just slightly toward you, as if it's curious. You're standing at the edge right now, where the last strip of moonlight hesitates before fading into shadow. Even the light seems unsure about going in. And honestly, you probably won't survive this. Not in the way you expect, anyway. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I want to know where in the world you're listening from, especially if there's a forest nearby. No pressure, just mildly unsettling curiosity. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You take your first step inside, and the temperature drops just enough to notice. The ground beneath your feet is soft with layers of old leaves, muting every sound you make. It's quiet, too quiet, but not empty. It feels like the forest agreed to lower its voice the moment you arrived. Then you hear it. A whisper. Not quite words, more like the shape of a voice brushing past your ears. You stop. Of course you do. That's the one sensible thing you've done so far. But curiosity wins, like it always does in situations that tend to go poorly. You keep going. The trees here are ancient, their trunks thick and twisted into strange shapes. Some almost look like fingers curled inward. Real forests, like the yew groves in Europe, can have trees over 2,000 years old. That means they were already ancient when entire empires were just getting started. So yes, trees can outlive history, which makes you wonder what they might remember. The whisper comes again. You turn quickly. Nothing. Just shadows and branches that don't quite sit still. Okay, cool, you mutter, immediately breaking the golden rule of eerie places. Don't talk out loud. The forest doesn't answer, but a faint breeze moves through, even though the air was still before. Historians still argue whether ancient people believed forests were alive, or if it was symbolic, but many cultures treated certain groves as sacred, believing spirits lived within the trees, watching, listening, sometimes responding. You reach out and touch a trunk. It's warm. You pull your hand back slowly. That's not normal, you whisper, trying to sound logical about something that clearly isn't. The path ahead bends, though you don't remember choosing it. Branches seem to guide you, nudging your direction gently. It's subtle, almost polite, which somehow makes it more unsettling. Then, the whisper comes again. This time, it sounds like your name. You freeze. This is the moment a reasonable person would leave, immediately, no questions asked. But you're still here, which is a choice. You keep going. The canopy thickens, moonlight breaking into thin, uneven strips. Shadows stretch and shift in ways that don't match the trees casting them. One lingers just a bit too long, like it's thinking about following you. There's a faint scent now, earthy, with something sweet underneath. Not unpleasant, just unfamiliar. Some plants release chemicals at night that can affect your mood or perception. Totally scientific, completely normal. Probably not the reason something just whispered your name. Probably. You notice markings carved into a tree ahead. Old, worn symbols twisting together in patterns you almost understand if you stare too long. For a second, it feels like they mean something. Then, the feeling slips away. Historians still argue whether carvings like these were warnings, rituals, or attempts at communication. Some fringe theories suggest they weren't meant for humans at all. Comforting thought, right? The forest grows quieter, focused. Then, you hear footsteps behind you. You stop. The sound stops too. You turn slowly. Nothing there. When you face forward again, the path looks different. Not dramatically, but enough that you know it wasn't like this before. The forest has shifted, and somewhere ahead, the whisper returns. Closer now. You stand there a moment longer than you'd like to admit, staring at a path that absolutely did not look like this a second ago. It's one of those subtle changes that would be easy to ignore if you weren't already on edge. But you are, so your brain immediately files this under very concerning. Still, you move forward, because of course you do. At this point, turning back feels less like safety and more like surrender, and you're not ready to admit defeat to a forest. Not yet. The ground dips slightly, the soil softer here, almost damp. Your footsteps sink just a little, making a faint suction sound that is deeply unpleasant in a way you didn't know was possible. The trees crowd closer together, their trunks bending inward as if trying to listen in on your thoughts, which, frankly, you'd prefer they didn't. There's not a lot of confidence happening up there right now. Another whisper drifts through the air. This time, it's longer, not just a single word, more like a sentence stretched thin and distorted as if it had to travel a long way to reach you. You tilt your head slightly, trying to make sense of it, but the meaning slips through your mind like water through your fingers. Cool, 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 you murmur softly. Love a cryptic message I can't understand. The forest doesn't laugh, which feels a little rude given the effort. You pass another tree with carvings, then another. The symbols grow more frequent now, etched into bark at different heights, some low near the roots, others far above your head. It's not random. There's a pattern here, even if you can't fully see it yet. Historians still argue whether such markings in ancient forests were territorial signs, spiritual wards, or something closer to storytelling. In parts of northern Europe, for instance, people once carved runes into trees to mark sacred boundaries or invoke protection from unseen forces. Of course, those same symbols were also believed to invite attention, depending on how they were used. So, mixed reviews. You run your fingers lightly over one carving as you pass. The groove is smooth, worn by time or by repetition. There's a strange thought that creeps in then. What if these weren't carved once, long ago? What if they've been retraced again and again by something that never left? You pull your hand away a bit faster than necessary. The whispers grow more frequent now, overlapping slightly. Not loud, never loud, but persistent, like a crowd speaking in hushed tones just out of sight. You catch fragments this time, not full sentences, but pieces. Stay. Remember. Don't. You stop walking. Okay, you whisper, a little more firmly now. If this is some kind of guided experience, I would love a clearer set of instructions. Again, no response. Tough audience. You take a slow breath and keep moving. The forest floor begins to change underfoot. Less leaves now, more exposed roots twisting across the ground like veins. You have to watch your step carefully, which is exactly when your brain decides to become very imaginative. Every root you step over feels like it might shift. Every shadow looks like it might breathe. And then, just to make things better, you notice something hanging from one of the branches ahead. You approach slowly. You stand there a moment longer than you'd like to admit, staring at a path that absolutely did not look like this a second ago. It's one of those subtle changes that would be easy to ignore if you weren't already on edge. But you are, so your brain immediately files this under very concerning. Still, you move forward, because of course you do. At this point, turning back feels less like safety and more like surrender, and you're not ready to admit defeat to a forest. Not yet. The ground dips slightly, the soil softer here, almost damp. Your footsteps sink just a little, making a faint suction sound that is deeply unpleasant in a way you didn't know was possible. The trees crowd closer together, their trunks bending inward as if trying to listen in on your thoughts, which, frankly, you'd prefer they didn't. There's not a lot of confidence happening up there right now. Another whisper drifts through the air. This time, it's longer, not just a single word, more like a sentence, stretched thin and distorted, as if it had to travel a long way to reach you. You tilt your head slightly, trying to make sense of it, but the meaning slips through your mind like water through your fingers. "Cool, cool, cool," you murmur softly. "Love a cryptic message I can't understand." The forest doesn't laugh, which feels a little rude given the effort. You pass another tree with carvings, then another. The symbols grow more frequent now, etched into bark at different heights, some low near the roots, others far above your head. It's not random. There's a pattern here, even if you can't fully see it yet. Historians still argue whether such markings in ancient forests were territorial signs, spiritual wards, or something closer to storytelling. In parts of northern Europe, for example, people once carved runes into trees to mark sacred boundaries or invoke protection from unseen forces. Of course, those same symbols were also believed to invite attention, depending on how they were used, so mixed reviews. You run your fingers lightly over one carving as you pass. The groove is smooth, worn by time or by repetition. There's a strange thought that creeps in then. What if these weren't carved once, long ago? What if they've been retraced again and again by something that never left? You pull your hand away a bit faster than necessary. The whispers grow more frequent now, overlapping slightly. Not loud, never loud, but persistent, like a crowd speaking in hushed tones just out of sight. You catch fragments this time, not full sentences, but pieces. Stay. Remember. Don't. You stop walking. "Okay," you whisper, a little more firmly now. "If this is some kind of guided experience, I would love a clearer set of instructions." Again, no response. Tough audience. You take a slow breath and keep moving. The forest floor begins to change underfoot. Less leaves now, more exposed roots twisting across the ground like veins. You have to watch your step carefully, which is exactly when your brain decides to become very imaginative. Every root you step over feels like it might shift. Every shadow looks like it might breathe. And then, just to make things better, you notice something hanging from one of the branches ahead. You approach slowly. That almost understanding lingers in your mind, like the echo of a dream you can't quite recall. You stand there, staring at the carved stone, feeling as if it's staring back, politely, patiently, like it has all the time in the world and knows you don't. You lean closer. The symbols are deeper here, more deliberate than the ones on the trees. They spiral inward, converging toward a small hollow at the center of the stone. It's not large, just enough to hold something the size of your palm, or something that once was. You hesitate. That's new, a sign of personal growth. But curiosity nudges again, because apparently you've learned nothing. You crouch slightly, bringing your face level with the markings. The air feels warmer here, and that faint sweet scent is stronger now, almost comforting, like something familiar you can't quite place. Then the whispers shift. They're not scattered anymore, not overlapping, just one voice now, low, steady, and very close. "You found it." You freeze. Not dramatically, just a quiet stillness, like your body is trying not to attract attention, which is a little late for that. "Found what?" you murmur, because apparently you've decided to start participating. The forest pauses, not silent, just attentive, like it's listening to how this goes. You glance around, but the trees remain exactly as they were, still, watching, pretending to be trees. Your eyes return to the stone. There's something inside the hollow now. You're fairly certain it wasn't there before. It looks like a small bundle, similar to the one you saw hanging earlier, but tighter, more compact, bound with thin strands of something that almost looks like hair. You squint. You immediately regret squinting. Okay, that's new. That is definitely new. And yet, your hand lifts, slowly. You hover just above the object, not touching it yet. Your instincts are throwing up all kinds of red flags, but there's something else too, something quieter, deeper, a sense that this is meant for you,
which is either incredibly special or deeply concerning. Historians still argue whether ancient forest rituals involved offerings left for spirits, or if they were part of a more personal exchange, something like a conversation between human and place. In certain traditions, objects placed in carved stones were believed to anchor intentions, allowing the forest itself to respond. So naturally, you're about to poke it. You brush the bundle lightly with your fingertips. Nothing happens. You exhale, just a little. See? Totally fine, completely normal forest interaction. Then the ground hums. Not shakes, just a low, subtle vibration, like something deep beneath the soil shifted slightly in its sleep. You pull your hand back instantly, because yes, now you're learning. Progress. The whispers return, but they're different again. Softer, almost pleased. Remember, you were here. You blink. No, I wasn't, you whisper, frowning. This is my first time. But the forest doesn't argue. It just continues, gently, persistently. Before the path. Before the name. That doesn't make sense, and yet something in your chest tightens, not with fear, but with a strange, uninvited familiarity, like hearing a song you don't remember learning, but somehow know all the words to. You stand slowly, stepping back from the stone. The air feels thicker now, like it's pressing in slightly from all sides. The trees seem closer, though you didn't see them move. Of course you didn't. They're trees. Right. You turn, intending to retrace your steps, just for a moment, just to confirm you still can. But the path behind you is gone. Not obscured, not hidden, just not there. In its place, more trees, dense, unbroken, unfamiliar. You stare at it for a second. Then another. Okay, you say, quietly, that's not ideal. A light joke slips through your thoughts, something about leaving a bad review for this forest experience, but it doesn't quite land. Your brain is a little too busy recalculating everything. You turn back toward the stone, because at least that's something you recognize now. And that's when you notice the markings have changed. Not all of them, just a few, but enough that you're sure. The symbols near the center have shifted slightly, their lines curving in new directions, forming a pattern that feels more complete, more intentional, like they've been waiting for something, or someone. Historians still argue whether reports of living symbols in ancient sites were misinterpretations of light and shadow, or if they reflected a genuine belief that certain markings could change over time. Some fringe theories even suggest these symbols weren't static at all, but responsive, interactive in a way. You stare at the stone, your reflection faintly visible in its smooth surface between the carvings, and for a brief unsettling moment, your reflection doesn't quite match your movement. It lags, just slightly. You blink, it corrects itself. Yeah, we're not doing mirrors now. Absolutely not. The forest seems to agree, because the reflection doesn't shift again, but the feeling lingers, that sense of being slightly out of sync with yourself. The whispers soften, almost fading. Then one last phrase drifts through, clearer than all the rest. Go deeper. You look ahead. Beyond the stone, the forest opens, just slightly. Not a clearing, exactly, more like a passage, narrow, shadowed, but unmistakably there. It wasn't there before. Of course it wasn't. You hesitate, again, but this time it's different. Not fear, exactly. Something closer to understanding that whatever this is, it's been unfolding for a while, longer than you've been aware. And whether you like it or not, you're part of it now. So you take a breath, steady yourself, and step past the stone into whatever the forest has been quietly preparing for you all along.
You step past the stone, and the air changes again, thicker, warmer, almost like stepping into a room that's been occupied for a very long time, not crowded, just aware. The narrow passage ahead curves gently, guiding you without asking. At this point, you stopped pretending you're choosing the direction. The forest is doing that for you, and you're just cooperating, which is a polite way of saying you've accepted your fate a little too easily. The ground beneath your feet is smoother here, fewer roots, fewer leaves, almost as if this path is used regularly. That thought settles in your mind with quiet discomfort. Used by what, exactly? Because you're fairly certain there aren't any late-night hiking groups scheduled out here. The trees begin to thin, not in number, but in density. Their trunks space out just enough to reveal what lies ahead. A clearing. No, not just a clearing. A grove. Circular, deliberate, ancient. You step into it slowly, your breath catching just slightly as the space opens around you. The canopy above forms a near-perfect ring, allowing a pool of moonlight to spill down into the center. It's the first clear light you've seen since entering the forest, and it feels almost staged, like a spotlight waiting for something to happen, or someone to arrive. You glance around. The trees at the edge of the grove are different, taller, straighter, their bark marked with deeper carvings than any you've seen so far. These aren't scattered symbols. These are organized, repeated, intentional. This place matters. Historically, sacred groves like this existed across many cultures. In ancient Celtic traditions, groves were considered living temples, places where rituals were performed without walls or roofs, because nature itself was the structure. No buildings, no altars carved from stone, just trees, sky, and whatever people believed lived between them. Historians still argue whether these groves were purely ceremonial or if they were believed to hold something more interactive, something that could respond. You take a few steps toward the center. There's a circle etched into the ground, faint but visible, not carved deeply, just pressed into the soil as if it's been walked over again and again. The same symbols from the trees and the stone appear here too, forming a ring that feels complete. You stop just at the edge of it. "All right," you whisper softly, "this feels important, which usually means I should not step into it." You pause. Then you step into it, because of course you do. The moment your foot crosses the line, the air shifts. Not dramatically, no sudden wind or flashing lights, but something subtle clicks into place, like a lock turning somewhere deep beneath the ground. The whispers return. But they're not whispers anymore. They're voices, still soft, still calm, but clear, surrounding you, not from a single direction, but from everywhere at once. You came back. You remember now. You belong. You turn slowly, trying to locate the source, but there is no source. Just the grove, just the trees, just the space that now feels very much like it's aware of you in a way that goes beyond observation. "Okay," you say quietly, your voice steady but lower now. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." A light breeze moves through the grove, though the leaves above barely stir. It's more like the air itself is shifting, adjusting. And then the ground beneath the circle begins to glow, not brightly, just a faint, soft illumination tracing the symbols at your feet. They light up one by one, slowly, like something waking up after a long rest. You look down, watching the pattern form. It's the same pattern from the stone, the same one that almost made sense. And now, it does. Not in words, not in language, but in feeling, in instinct, like your mind has stepped aside and something older has taken its place. You understand what the circle is. It's not a trap. It's not a warning. It's a connection, a point where something within the forest meets something within you. You swallow, your throat suddenly dry. "That's new," you whisper, which is becoming your default response to everything tonight. The voices soften again, blending into a single presence, not a voice exactly, more like a thought that isn't entirely yours. And then it speaks, not aloud, not through sound, but directly into you. You never left. Your breath catches. No, you whisper, shaking your head slightly. That's not. This is my first time here. The presence doesn't argue. It just continues. You forgot. That word lands differently, heavier. Images flicker at the edge of your mind, quick, fragmented. Trees, firelight, hands tracing symbols into bark. Your hands. You blink hard, stepping back, but the circle holds you, not physically, just firmly. Historians still argue whether ancient rituals in groves like this involved altered states of consciousness, moments where participants believed they were connecting with something beyond themselves. Some suggest it was symbolic, others believed it was something more immersive, something that didn't just feel real, something that was. The glow beneath your feet brightens slightly, the pattern now fully visible. You can follow it with your eyes, understand its flow, its purpose. It's not just a circle. It's a map, a memory, a record of something that has happened here before, many times. You take a slow breath, your thoughts quieter now, not calmer exactly, but more aligned. The forest isn't guiding you anymore. It's recognizing you. And somewhere deep in that realization, a question begins to form, not from fear, but from something quieter, more uncertain. If you've been here before, then why did you leave? The grove doesn't answer. It simply waits.
The grove waits, and so do you. Not frozen, not trapped, just suspended in that quiet space between understanding and denial. The glow beneath your feet pulses softly now, like a slow heartbeat, steady and patient. It doesn't demand anything from you. It doesn't rush. Whatever this place is, it's very confident you're not going anywhere. And that confidence is a little unsettling. You look down again at the pattern, tracing it with your eyes. It's familiar now, not just visually, but instinctively. You could probably redraw it from memory if someone handed you a stick and a patch of dirt, which, honestly, is not a skill you expected to unlock tonight. The presence lingers at the edge of your thoughts, not intrusive, just there, like someone sitting beside you in comfortable silence. You left before the dawn, it offers gently. You exhale slowly. Why? There's a pause, not empty, but thoughtful. You were not ready to stay. That lands somewhere deep, like a truth you didn't know you were carrying. You glance toward the edge of the grove. The forest beyond is darker now, less defined. The path you came through has softened, almost fading into the surrounding trees. But above the canopy, you notice something new. The sky is changing. The black of night has begun to lift just slightly into that early gray that comes before dawn. It's subtle, easy to miss if you weren't looking for it, but you are. Because now there's a choice, and you can feel it. Historians still argue whether ancient rituals tied to natural cycles, like dawn or solstice, were symbolic markers of time or actual thresholds where people believed the boundary between worlds became thinner. In many traditions, dawn wasn't just morning. It was a transition, a moment where something could begin or end. You take a slow step backward toward the edge of the circle. The glow beneath your feet flickers slightly, not fading, just acknowledging the movement. You're saying I can leave, you whisper. The presence doesn't answer directly. You can choose. Of course, it's always a choice, even when it doesn't feel like one. You look around the grove again, taking in the trees, the carvings, the quiet symmetry of the space. There's no fear here now, not really. Just a deep, steady awareness that this place is older than your understanding and somehow connected to you in a way that doesn't quite fit into logic. A light joke drifts through your mind, something about accidentally signing up for a lifelong forest membership, but it fades quickly. This isn't that kind of moment. You step closer to the edge of the circle. The air shifts again, gently this time, like a breath being released. The whispers, those constant, quiet companions, have gone still. Not gone, just resting. You glance back once more at the center of the grove, at the pattern, at the place where something in you woke up. And then you look up. The sky is brighter now, not fully morning, but close enough that the darkness has begun to loosen its grip. The first hint of birdsong threads through the air, soft, tentative, like the world is waking up slowly, carefully. You take one more step, out of the circle. The glow fades behind you, not abruptly, but like a light dimming at the end of a long day. The presence recedes, too, not disappearing, just settling back into the forest where it belongs. "You will remember," it says quietly. You nod, even though you're not sure what that means yet. The path ahead, if it is a path, begins to reappear, subtle at first, then clearer. The trees part just enough to guide you forward, not pushing this time, just allowing. You walk. Each step feels lighter, though not entirely your own. There's a strange balance now, part of you moving forward, part of you still aware of what lies behind. Not stuck, just connected. The forest begins to thin, gradually, gently. The air cools again, the sweetness fading into something more familiar, earth, leaves, morning. You don't hear whispers anymore, but you don't feel alone either.
Historians still argue whether experiences like this, real or imagined, were shaped by belief, environment, or something less easily explained. Some call it memory, others call it myth. A few suggest it's something in between, something that waits. You reach the edge of the forest just as the first real light of dawn breaks through the horizon. The sky shifts into soft shades of gold and pale blue, and for a moment everything feels ordinary. Almost. You step out onto open ground, turning slightly to look back. The forest stands there, quiet and still, just a collection of trees in the early morning light. No movement, no glow, no sign of what you just experienced. Just a forest. You exhale, long and slow. "Yeah," you murmur, a faint smile tugging at the corner of your mouth. "Totally normal." But as you turn to leave, really leave this time, you catch something out of the corner of your eye. A marking on a tree near the edge. Fresh. You pause just for a second. Then you keep walking, because some things you don't need to understand right away. The morning settles around you now, soft and steady, the kind of quiet that doesn't press in, but gently holds everything in place. Your steps slow naturally, not from fear, but from the simple awareness that you've come through something, and it's okay to let that feeling linger a little. The forest behind you fades into the background of the waking world, its edges softening in the light. Whatever waited within it is still there, but it's not reaching for you anymore, not calling, not pulling, just existing. And you, standing here in the calm of early day, feel that connection settle into something quieter. Not gone, just resting, like a memory that doesn't need to be replayed to be real. Your breathing evens out. The air feels lighter now, easier to take in. Each inhale carries the scent of morning, clean, simple, familiar, nothing hidden in it, nothing watching. You let your shoulders relax. There's no rush to move on, no urgency to explain what happened.
Some experiences aren't meant to be solved right away. They're meant to be carried gently, like a story you'll come back to when the world is quieter again. Maybe tonight, maybe some other time. For now, you just stand there, letting the light grow a little stronger, letting the stillness settle around you like a soft blanket. And somewhere, far behind you, the forest listens, not waiting, just remembering.